Hey folks, it's 2025 and I believe a lot of people will think that digital audio players nowadays are already obsolete. So why bother bringing another additional device on top of your mobile phone just to play music? Phones nowadays are like a jack of all trades and a master of none. While they can do almost everything, they cannot be compared to devices that are specialized. Therefore, we arrive at our current situation where first, I wanted to have a better music listening experience, and I don't want to have my phone battery drained just because of this. I've been using DAP for many years, specifically the Cowon Plenue D, and now I wanted something modern that can play music through Bluetooth, at the same time retain that high quality music playback experience. 6 months ago I just bought the Hiby R3II, and even so it still feels lacking in terms of the sound quality, and thus the search is on again. So this here is the Shanling M1 Plus. It's a pretty small size and pocketable digital audio player. Comparing that, I have a couple more devices that I own for some time now. So this here is actually the Hiby R3II 2025 version. And the one beside it is the Cowon Plenue D. Can't remember when was it produced, it was many years ago, probably about 10 years ago. So as you can see, the devices are pretty much about the same size. But that being the case, each of them have their own specific selling point and the pros and cons in accordance. So I'm not going to go into too much of the technical specs. I'm strictly going to go into the real world use case scenarios. Alright, first off is the physical differences and the physical comparison between these. Sizes wise, as I said, they're very similar. Weight wise, they are also very similar. Buttons, layout and stuff, I think that's the most core differences when it comes to your day-to-day operations for these items. The R3II has a much better layout in overall. That's just my own opinion, because of the way how the ports are being positioned. However, the Shanling M1 Plus has a better volume wheel design, in my own opinion. I feel that it's actually a better one compared to the R3II. It's because of how compact and sleek into the body it is. So it kind of affects the way how you bring this thing around, pot it, throw it in your bag, whatsoever. Having a more compact volume wheel is definitely a better choice for me, because then again, it doesn't have this weird protrusion out from the device, which sometimes you want to keep it in a case and it kind of obstructs the way how you keep the device. The next thing is regarding the buttons on the side. The Hiby R3II has this weird choice of combinations. They have the rocker stuck together with the next track as well as the play pause, and then the standalone previous button, which is like, why might as well put the next track as well as the previous track together in the same rocker. This is a bit weird, but once you cover up with the leather case, it really cannot tell us apart from where, so it really is a small problem. As for the Shanling M1 Plus, the leather case unfortunately doesn't cover the buttons, and unfortunately the buttons are quite protruded. So looking at it, likely they might get stuck, or when you pull out of your pants or your bag. Micro SD slots as well as USB port itself, really nothing much to compare about. But that being the case, I think some of you guys would be quite concerned about the transfer speed. Hiby R3II has about 6 Mbps and the M1 Plus has about 15 Mbps. So I'm just going to pause a little bit and I'm just going to put all the 3 different dimensional specs in this screen for the comparison if you guys are interested. That being the case, I mean, you can't really get the Cowon Plenue D quite easily. You probably have to find your way somewhere in the eBay, if not some of the used second-hand market. But that being the case, I still highly recommend this device, despite a lot of its flaws. As for the next point, surely you want to talk about the sound quality between all these 3 devices. The Cowon Plenue D was announced in 2010, so back then in those days, you wouldn't expect any kind of Wi-Fi, Bluetooth or whatever to be in any kind of portable audio devices. That being said, it still blows a lot of other competitor units out of the water. The Plenue D uses 2 of the Cirrus Logic CS43131 DACs. As for the Hiby R3II 2025, it uses a dual ES9219C. And the Shanling M1 Plus uses an ESS ES9069Q. So what does all this mean? To be honest, it doesn't matter anything at all. It really depends on your own listening experience and your preference of sound signature. In my opinion, DACs, there's no such thing as obsolete. Sometimes the old DACs, those retro ones, can sound really good. Compare that to any of the latest and greatest. So let's put the Plenue D one side first and just do a comparison with the R3 Mark II as well as the Shanling M1 Plus. The R3 Mark II straight off is flat. There is very little sparkling, very little characteristic to it. Sound is balanced, but at the same time there is no sparkle, there is no excitement. It feels just flat. When you listen it side by side between this and the M1 Plus, you can tell the M1 Plus has a better sound stage, has a better bass. The clarity is just a tad bit better as well. So now going back to the Plenue D itself, right? You compare that to, let's say, the R3 Mark II. I feel that it's just a tad bit better. And without the jet effect, it does feels a little bit more defined when it comes to the sound replication. But with jet effect in, it's a complete different beast. That actually will compare it to the M1 Plus instead. The Plenue D is capable of producing very well defined and very punchy bass. At the same time, the clarity and everything can be boosted up pretty high as well. So you can take it like, if you like the V sound signature, I think this device is really quite excellent when it comes to replicate of that. But the soundstage, of course, it cannot really be compared to a lot of modern days devices such as the M1 Plus. Or I feel that it might be on the same level compared that to the R3 Mark II. However, when it comes to Bluetooth performance, these two devices, the R3 Mark II as well as the M1 Plus, both of them are excellent. The R3 Mark II has the Bluetooth 5.1, whereas the Shanling M1 Plus has Bluetooth 5.2. Codecs available wise, I think Shanling M1 Plus has a bit of an edge. It does have the FX HD, while the R3 Mark II doesn't have that. On a day-to-day usage wise, I don't think it's going to be much of a difference because you'll either be playing with AAC on just a normal FX or LDAC. When it comes to latency as well as the signal loss kind of thing, both of these devices perform great. I very, very seldom experience any signal breakups while using Bluetooth on these two devices. Even in a very busy environment where there's a lot of people, or even in undergrounds or subway trains or those kind of stuff. Okay, so for the lineup battery stress test, I am using the Pula Anvil 114 on these two devices with volume set to around 40 to 45%. The R3 Mark II managed to hit about 20 hours continuous playback, whereas the M1 Plus managed to hit only about, like, say, some 8-ish, 9-ish hours. As for the Plenue D, it might not be a fair comparison since this device is already quite old. When I first got it, it's around 100 hours of playback, meaning 4 days of continuous playback. And the last test I did for this device, it lasted about 70 hours or so. Additionally, the M1 Plus do have the high gain option. However, for this test, I'm using the low gain. And Bluetooth as well as Wi-Fi for both devices have been turned off. So yes, it's fully optimized for like line out playback only. Comparing that to using Bluetooth experience, the battery life itself is going to be very, very much different. Because according to my experience when I'm using the R3 Mark II strictly on just Bluetooth, that thing can last for almost a month, but not on continuous playback, but it's like on daily use here and there. Then once in a while I stop, once in a while I play. Standby time for the R3 Mark II has been really, really excellent. On the other hand, the M1 Plus managed to give me about a week or so of Bluetooth usage. However, this is just only one test, so I believe I need a couple more tests in order to have more accurate results. Well, before I forgot, let's talk about the amplifying capability of these two devices as well. Both the R3 Mark II 2025 as well as the M1 Plus is capable of driving things such as the HIFI Man Sundara and the HIFI Man Edition XS. However, M1 Plus do have the high gain option, which when it's on, you probably need about, like, say, 50 to 55% of the volume in order to get a satisfying listening level for the Edition XS. However, the R3 Mark II does require about a 75% without any high gain option in order to get a satisfying listening experience. So next, let's talk about the user experience as well as the interface for all these three devices. Plenue D, well, is really straightforward. I mean, there's nothing too crazy about it. It's just in fact, you really can classify an MP3 player. It doesn't have any fancy stuff. No Bluetooth, no Wi-Fi. It's basically dump your files and play it. That's it. Thus, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail for the UI and UX experience for the R3 Mark II as well as the M1 Plus. So right off the bat, the R3 Mark II has much horrible UI compared that to M1 Plus. This is just my overall conclusion. The UI feels very clunky, it feels very laggy as well. It's not very responsive, even with like a very thin sheet of a screen protector. At the same time, I think the biggest problem to the UI issue for this is that it doesn't have a search function in the playlist. Or when you're playing your entire library, you can't search a particular track. So you have to scroll through and just look at it. On the other hand, the M1 Plus it feels very snappy, it feels very, very fast as well. And from the user experience point of view, actually it's quite smart. Like for example, when you upload a new track into your library, immediately the device will detect there's a new track coming in, and then it will scan the library for new updated tracks and what. However, the R3 Mark II will requires you to manually sync it, so you need to go into the menu option and then sync your library in order for it to detect the new tracks and then add it onto the playlist. For the boot up time, both devices perform quite similarly. The R3 Mark II boots about 10 seconds and the M1 Plus boots about 9 seconds. However, when it comes to boot up all the way to Bluetooth, the R3 Mark II requires 25 seconds, whereas the M1 Plus only requires 12 seconds. So that's only 3 seconds right after you boot up, till it connects to your pad Bluetooth device. So that's it. Actually, this wraps up my entire point of view and my user experience for this between all these devices. So in conclusion, which device am I just going to continue with it? To be honest, neither of this. I might want to explore into the R3 Mark II Pro, which I think it was released quite recently, a couple of weeks or months ago. Because in the first place, I think although most of the issue for the R3 Mark II 2025 has been resolved using the Shanling M1 Plus, but the battery life for this device is just too detrimental for me to even use it. However, if I'm just going to use it for the Bluetooth capability, I am probably going to stick to the R3 Mark II. So let's talk a little bit about the R3 Mark II Pro and how is it going to be different from here. I don't have the device with me right now to compare that to all this, but however, I think it's going to be a quite exciting device to play around, because first of all, the battery life is going to be almost double from the R3 Mark II 2025. With it, I think it also declares that it's going to be like 20 hours. However, that being the case, right, I think the current R3 Mark II 2025 did already hit about 20 to 20.5 hours of continuous playback. So I cannot imagine like this 4,000 milliamp of battery is going to carry me how long? Perhaps like maybe, I don't know, hopefully 30 hours at least or so. I really do hope so. At the same time, I think there's also a slight upgrades in terms of the DACs in these devices. My earlier complaint about the R3 Mark II 2025 was the capability of doing a layout. So hopefully the Pro model has a little bit more upgrade to the sound quality of it, and that is going to be the most perfect DAP they can ever buy. And on the closing note, I think HIFI really needs to up their game on the UI and UX part of things, because right now it feels really amateurish. So if they were to up their game, I think the devices for the lower end or the entry level market is going to be really, really popular, and there's opportunity for them to dominate this entry level market for audiophiles. So with that, thanks for watching. Cheers, guys.